Hey everyone, and welcome. I'm so glad that you could join us today. I'm Shala Gupta. I'm a senior marketing manager here at Kickstarter. We know you're busy, probably super busy, and so we really appreciate you making the time to be here and learn with us today. This session is all about giving you a deeper look into one of the most important tools we've built for both creators and really for backers. It's the Kickstarter Pledge Manager. So, whether you're preparing your first campaign or you've run several, the Pledge Manager is designed to make the post funding process easier and more efficient. We'll help you manage backer upgrades, shipping, taxes, and more, all in one place. Yvonne, will you switch the agenda? Thank you. So, today we'll cover a live demo of the Pledge Manager with some of our product team. We'll walk through key features like add-ons, backer and order management, shipping and tax collection, and we'll share best practices for using the Pledge Manager. We'll help you learn how to take your campaign from starting and building to across the finish line and beyond. Plus, you'll get a sneak peek at what's coming next. We'll save plenty of time at the end for Q&A. If we could skip to housekeeping, we'll talk about Q&A and questions here. So, this session is being recorded. You'll get a follow-up email after today that will have the recording. You're welcome to rewatch, share it with your team. We hope that you all get a lot out of this time. Reminder, please keep your mic muted. If you have comments or questions, we have plenty of features for those. So the chat is a great place for you to share commentary. Love seeing that you guys are so excited. That's a great place to put that. Feel free to talk about your company, maybe drop your live project. The chat is such a great place to connect with other folks who are here at this webinar. There's also a Q&A feature. You can see a screenshot here on this slide. If you have questions, I recommend you put your questions in that Q&A feature. That way, our team can answer questions live. You can even upvote questions that you also have, so we can kind of prioritize what's most important to the crew that's here today. Additionally, if you have your camera on, we'd love to see you. No pressure to turn it on, but of course, it's always nice to see everyone's faces and give everyone kind of a view. And then just a reminder again, please move your questions from the chat to the Q&A box. Feel free to upvote. We'll answer them in the Q&A feature, and we will answer questions live at the end of the session. With that, I'll hand it over to Hillary and Willow on our product team.
Thanks so much, Shella. Hi, everyone. Great to have you here. My name's Hillary. I'm a senior product manager at Kickstarter. Keeping an eye on the attendee list, definitely notice a few familiar faces from both our Discord and from past chats with creators. So good to see you all, and a few from that we met actually at PAX East. So nice to have you all here. So I've been working closely with our team and the broader team at Kickstarter, as well as creators to help build and improve the new Pledge Manager, which is all of what we're covering today. So from the start, just to kind of set some context, our approach to building this was very simple. We didn't want to just build another Pledge Manager because others have them, or necessarily replicate every single feature from other Pledge Managers just for the sake of parity. Instead, we focused on really solving the specific problems and challenges that you face as creators, which we did through spending a lot of time talking to creators, just like you. So through interviews, formal research interviews, events, all kinds of forums. So thank you all who kind of helped contribute so far to where we're at, and definitely looking forward to improving it over time. So as we spoke to creators to really build out what this Pledge Manager will look like, three core needs really kept coming up during our conversations with creators. I want to just talk briefly about them now. Thanks, Yvonne. So the first one was ease of use. This comes up over and over and over again. Creators really need an intuitive way to handle things like shipping, fulfilling your rewards and your add-ons, a way to charge tax so that your project stays compliant. And they really want that to be as easy to use as possible. So that's been top of mind for us for sure as a theme. The next need, if we skip to the next slide, is less friction. So previously or today, for creators who are using Kickstarter for crowdfunding and maybe another platform for pledge management needs or fulfillment needs, They're finding that sending backers off platform really adds barriers and costs and causes drop off for your backers. There's some backers that you just never hear from for a variety of reasons. So keeping everything on Kickstarter, it really is intended to help make everything simpler for both you as a creator and also your backers, keeping it all in one place. And then lastly, the last need that came up was allowing you to continue to collect post-campaign revenue. So really being able to offer more to your backers after your campaign ends to help you continue building momentum and raising more funds. So these are sort of three themes that help to guide us in building where the Pledge Manager is at today. And then if we go to the next slide, just fun little snapshot here. The pledge manager that we are going to show you today was really built around those needs, and we're really committed to improving it continuously to keep iterating on it based on your feedback. So while we have a clear picture of kind of our near-term areas of focus for the next, month or two, we're really looking to the community to help build out that longer-term roadmap to help us understand what you still need for those fulfillment needs. So with that, I'm going to pause on my side and I will pass it over to my colleague Willow, who you all might have met already or been talking to about pledge management. I know she's been answering a ton of creator questions, and Willow is going to kick off the pledge manager demo for us. So over to you, Willow.
Hi, everybody. I'm Willow. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm a senior engineering manager here at Kickstarter. My team has been working on the Pledge Manager for like 2 years now. About a year ago, we released our upgraded survey tool, which was kind of the first big step that was visible. So today I'm going to be walking y'all through our demo. I'm going to share my screen. Place current share. Okay, so this is a currently live pledge manager from one of our creators, Hack Shack Games, and they have configured their pledge manager to be open to new backers. So even though I didn't back this project, I'm able to visit their pledge manager and add rewards and add-ons. So I'm going to start by, here's the welcome page. I'm going to hit continue. And you can see that I have access to all of the rewards that they've configured to be available to new backers. These are the same rewards that would be available to folks looking to upgrade from their existing pledge. So if they had like a $1 support only pledge, they could upgrade to one of these. Or if they had this first reward, they could upgrade to the second one. Um, so I'm able to filter to my location. So if I want to see only things that are available in the UAE, for example, I can do that. Uh, Western Sahara, etc. So I'm in the United States. I'm going to go ahead and select this reward. Now I'm presented the opportunity to pick add-ons that I would want to add to my order. Just like with the rewards, these are configured by the creator for whether or not they're available um, to the, am I sharing my screen? I am, cool. Whether or not they're available to the backer. So I'm going to scroll through these. I'm going to say, okay, I would love this PDF. And I will hit continue. Then I'm asked any relevant survey questions for my order. So based on the items that are actually in the rewards and add-ons I'm receiving, I might receive specific questions that are about those items. And then additionally, the creator can configure reward tier or add-on specific questions or just questions that go out to all their backers. So for example, there's this special thanks section that's probably configured for everyone. Similarly, this one, all the fulfillment's being done through DriveThruRPG, so probably also for everyone. So I'm going to provide my Kickstarter email and hit continue. It's going to ask me to fill in my address. Okay, and then I'm going to leave my phone number blank because I don't want to share that. All right, so continuing on, I've put in my address. At this point, it will ask me to confirm. If I know that my address is wrong, I can say no, use the one I originally put in. And just to note, the creator didn't have to do anything special to configure that. All backers are asked their address because we need that information to calculate taxes. So you won't have to add an extra address question when you're setting up your pledge manager. That will just be given to you for free. If you're a digital backer, that address doesn't get shared with the creator. It's only shared if they need it for fulfillment. Okay, so we've calculated shipping and tax. Because I live in Seattle, I have tax that I have to pay on digital goods, in case you're wondering why that's there. And now I can check out. So if I hit pay, I'm going to see this thing that says payment collected. And now as a backer, I'm taken to my uh, backing details. So that is how the pledge manager looks from the backer's perspective. Let's go ahead and jump into what it would look like for you to create such a pledge manager experience. So I'm going to start all the way back at project build at the very beginning of your project, because there are choices that you make here that will impact what the experience will be like later. So this is a draft project I have drawn up called Queries and Acquaintances. It is an RPG icebreaker game. I'm going to scroll down on the basics tab down to, let's do pledge over time. Sure, that sounds great. Down to shipping, which is a new section we have. And you'll see that you can now choose two different ways to do shipping on Kickstarter. So you can say, I want to charge shipping at pledge. I want to have like an upfront shipping cost so that my backers aren't surprised. Or you can say, I want to charge shipping later, in which case you'll provide estimated shipping ranges instead of fixed shipping amounts so that people know what to expect when they get to the pledge manager. So I'm going to choose charge shipping later. And then I'm going to go to my rewards configuration. Oop, I got to save. And I'm going to choose one of my reward tiers. Let's look at this one, edit. And if I go down to this shipping section, you can see that I have the various destinations I support, and I now have this estimated shipping range section. So this is going to be shown to backers as they're going through the pledge flow, just to say, hey, here's what you might end up paying for shipping later when you're going through this process. So I'll say, hey, I think this is going to cost between $2 and $5 to ship. Great. And then the rest of project setup works exactly the same. Oh yeah, I set this up a long time ago. There, it's in the future now. So let's fast forward to the next step of things. So suppose that we have had a successful campaign. Here's my demo campaign, Heart of the Cards, which is a card game about vampires. And I've achieved my my $10 goal. I got $15 from 5 backers, and I now have the opportunity to set up my pledge manager. So I'll see this tab in the left side navigation. I'll click into there, and I will have some setup to do down here. Additionally, I have already enabled this project for the tariff manager, but if I had not, I would see a banner right here that allows me to contact the Kickstarter team and request that the tariff manager be enabled for my project. And we will see what effect that has in a little bit. If I don't want to use the pledge manager or I can't for some reason, I can always switch back to the old backer survey. I say old, but it's really the one we launched a year ago. And that will allow me to collect backer information without doing upsells and allowing new add-ons and stuff. So first up, we got to set up our welcome message. I hit edit here. We have our full kind of normal text editor. You can do paragraphs text. You can add images if you want. You can add bulleted lists. So everything that you might expect. Next up, you would configure rewards and add-ons. So if I hit resume here, we'll see all of the rewards and add-ons that I offered during my campaign will appear in this view. There's a toggle at the top which says allow new backers to pledge for rewards configured to be available in the pledge manager. So what this means is normally with this interface, you can say like, hey, these are the upgrades I want to offer. If you switch this toggle to on, what you are saying is additionally, new people can come into this pledge manager and become new backers for me, and they can choose anything that I said was fine as an upgrade. So that is basically a way to keep late pledges going even while you start fulfilling. So for each of my rewards, I'm asked to make a choice. Do I want to offer this during the pledge manager? So for support the project, no, that's not important to me at this point. I just want to make more sales. I'm going to go to Heart of the Cards Digital, and we'll say, yes, let's offer this. We charged 2 during the campaign. We charged 3 during late pledges. I think at this point, folks are pretty late to the game. I'm going to mark it up a little bit more, and we'll call it $5 to get this reward. And additionally, I can set how many I would like to offer, similar to in the campaign. If I only have this is a digital reward, so not a great example. Uh, let's look at this physical one. If I only have 50 copies of this from my production run left to give to people, then I might want to limit the number of the reward that I'm giving out. Right, and then in terms of add-on configuration, it's very similar. But additionally, you can have a per backer limit setting. This is, I believe, also a feature in the reward configuration and build. But you can basically say, for each backer, they can get up to this many of this thing. So if I want to stop someone from cleaning out my whole supply, I have a limitation I can set there. If I want to add new add-ons, so this is just the stuff from this campaign. If I want to go and add stuff from my backlog, either new rewards or new add-ons, I can click this Create New Add-on button at the top, and it will bring up the reward/add-on creation flow. I'm probably definitely going to offer it if I created it. I'll populate a name, description, image, price. I'll set the limits that I want to set. I can add new items. I can choose existing ones from this campaign, or I can make new ones. And then I can set up the shipping for this one too. So I can say this ships to certain countries or whatever. And that allows me to configure new add-ons and rewards. So let's go back one more time. The next step for setting up my pledge manager, I'm going to go to create my survey. So this is going to be the part that's probably familiar to most of you who've used Kickstarter survey over the past year. We can configure 2 different types of questions. We have item questions and backer questions. Item questions are specific to items, and they're asked regardless of what reward people get. If they have that item in their cart somehow, they will get asked that question. And they'll get asked that question once for each copy of that item they're receiving. So for example, if someone gets a reward that has like 5 booster packs, they will be asked, which set do you want for each of those 5? So I can set up questions for each of these just to show you what that looks like if you haven't seen it before. It has this item variance section. You can add a variant. You can give it a question that you want to be asked, or you can just leave that blank. So they'll just see like, oh, size, small, medium. That's self-explanatory. And then you specify what it is. So let's say I have normal cards and I have extra large cards. Then I now have that variant as well. And additionally, it will automatically generate stock keeping units for each of these combinations. So you'll see we have 2 different variants, and each of those has 2 options, which gives us a total of 4 possible stock keeping units, 1 for each. Later on, after I launch my Pledge Manager, if I want to go change the names of these SKUs to match what I have in like my Shopify store, for example, I can go to the Fulfillment tab, and there's a ability in there to edit SKUs. Finally, I can create item customization questions. So if I need them to give me like, what name do you want me to sign? I can do that kind of thing, and it will just be like an open text question, and that can be made optional or required for the item, whatever makes sense for you. So I'll hit save and exit, and we can see that those questions are there now. For backer questions, I can add 3 different types of questions. There's open text, multiple selection, and single selection. And those can be targeted by reward tier or sent to everybody or add-ons. So if I want to ask, for example, how did you hear about my project? I can do that without having to worry about making it some kind of item question. Again, I don't need to ask about addresses because that will be collected automatically for me. If I have rewards shipping, then I will get that information for the people who need to be shipped to. And for any digital rewards, I don't need that info, so I won't get it. Finally, I can preview what the questions will look like for a particular reward tier. If add-ons are available, so for example, if it's a physical thing and there are physical add-ons, I can also add those and see how that would change what the questions look like. So in this case, I'm ordering a lot of booster packs, so I will see a lot of booster pack questions. All right, back to the Pledge Manager configuration. The next step is to add my tax information. So if I hop into here, I will see a part that asks me for VAT IDs. So if I'm shipping to the EU or UK, I might have some tax liability there. Kickstarter might also have some tax liability there. And in this case, because I'm based in the US, the only situation where I would need to worry about my tax liability is if a backer orders enough add-ons that they would cross at the 150 euro or 135 GBP threshold to become a high value import. So I'm pretty sure that won't happen. If it does, I can deal with it. So I'm just going to check these boxes underneath here to opt out to say like, hey, I'm going to ship these things dispatch duty unpaid, and I will not have to worry about anything there. Kickstarter is responsible in all the other cases, so they will automatically collect tax from my backers, and they will be responsible for remitting it. I'll get a tax report that will allow me to see what tax was collected for who, which I can share with my delivery partner so that they can make sure that those backers don't get double charged. Additionally, backers will have it on their receipt how much VAT they paid. I'm also asked to confirm my business address, trying hard not to dox myself, so I'm not going to scroll down. But it should be whatever I put in during Stripe onboarding, and it can be edited if it's changed for some reason. Next up, we're going to specify tax information for each of our items. So I'm going to hit resume on this. Because I have enabled the tariff manager for this project, I also have the opportunity to specify tariff surcharges. So let's get into it. For each of my items, I need to try to pick a item categorization so that Kickstarter charges the appropriate tax for my backers. For example, a lot of you may know that in many jurisdictions, digital goods aren't charged tax at all, or books have a discounted tax rate. In order for Kickstarter to figure that out, it needs to know what is this thing that I'm trying to give away to people. So we have a short list here of common Kickstarter items. I'm going to go ahead and say a booster pack is close enough to a card deck. So I'll go ahead and pick that one. And I can see what code is going to be used in ABBA-Tax, which is our tax calculation partner. So I'll hit update. If I decided that I didn't like any of these options, if for example, I'm making like a 3D, a .stl file, let's take that as an example, then instead of choosing one of these, I can type in STL file, and then I will be asked to provide the Avalara tax code that I want to use. So I can hit this find tax code button, and it will open Avalara's tax code search in a separate thing. And I can say, hey, I want to do a digital file. Let's see, it's not an image. Designs, plans, that sounds about right. So I'll copy that to my clipboard. I'll go back and I'll paste that in. So that's how I would use a custom code if I felt like I needed one. Usually I'm going to be able to find what I need from Kickstarter set though. Next, I'm going to set a market value. This is going to be how much I would offer this good for if I was selling it in retail at a store. Generally speaking, folks backing my campaign are going to be getting things at a discount, like for less than I would sell them for at a store. And the way that Kickstarter is going to handle that is it's going to look at what the backer actually paid, and calculate a proportionate discount for the items that were part of their rewards. So for example, even if I said this booster pack is worth $50, maybe the cards are made out of gold leaf or something, then if my backer only paid $10 for this reward tier, they'll still only be charged on $10. This is basically just working out what proportion to use for each tax code. So I do think these are worth $10, so I'm going to do that. And then finally, if during the course of production, my prices change dramatically from what I had planned. So I know I'm not collecting enough money to successfully fulfill this because some law has changed or an executive order has come down, then I can add a tariff surcharge once I have that feature enabled that can help me make up the difference. So maybe I'm okay with lowering my margins a little bit, but I want to make sure that I can fulfill this thing. So I'm just going to add $3 to this booster pack to kind of minimize the additional price that my backers have to pay. So I'll hit save. And I'm going to repeat that process for each of my different things. There are some cases where we know that an item, it doesn't really make sense to be taxed. We're actually going to try to include those in our category dropdown soon to make it a little bit easier for you. But that's what this non-taxable button is for. So like if I'm like, I want to give you a high five, it doesn't really make sense to ask someone to pay tax on that. So we wanted to make sure we could cover those cases too. Going back to our configuration, the next step is to finalize our shipping costs. So during my campaign, I did not charge shipping. I provided shipping range estimates. Additionally, oh, this is, I want to show you all this. So give me a second. I'm going to reset my shipping configuration choice so that I can show you that we can do both active and weight-based and flat rate based. Okay, let's go back to the pledge manager. So when I go to set my shipping costs, I get a prompt that asks me whether I want to do flat rate shipping or weight-based shipping. Flat rate is what you're familiar with on Kickstarter. Basically, for each reward or add-on, you can specify an amount that you want folks to pay for that, depending on where they're located. Weight-based shipping is our new feature. So when I choose this, I can decide, hey, do I want to use metric or imperial? So I can do kilograms or ounces. I'm going to do ounces, and I'll say set shipping rule. Then I can create different shipping zones for my different places that I'm shipping. So right now I'm only shipping to Canada and the United States. So I've created this shipping zone here that handles both of them, but I could have different shipping zones for the two. And then in here, I can add different weight ranges. So from 0 to 8 ounces, it costs this much. From 8 to 16, it costs this much. And then if it weighs more than that, it costs this much. I can add additional rates if I need to. So let's say if I have this as 24, I can add more. So I'll hit, I'll delete that last one and I'll hit save. And then additionally to setting up the weight tables, I need to specify the weights for each of my items. So down here, I can say, all right, a booster pack case, that's going to weigh 2 pounds. A booster pack is going to weigh, let's say like 2 ounces. I don't know how much things weigh. Digital stuff is not going to weigh anything, so we'll say exclude on those. And then the True Ghouls pack is just a special booster pack. So I can hit save. And now when a backer goes through checkout, depending on what's actually in their cart, it will calculate the weight and it will plug that into my weight table and it will give them that shipping charge. So I no longer have to try to guess what my flat rates should be. All right. I realize it's a lot of functionality, by the way, a lot to go over. We do have a tutorial series on YouTube that you can watch too. Finally, I'm going to confirm my shipping origin. So if I hit edit here, I am asked to provide an origin for each of the destinations that I'm sending things to. And this is so that we can calculate tax appropriately. Yeah, that's pretty much it, but it's a good reason. So for each of my locations, I can specify which origin they should go for. And if I have any that aren't assigned yet, they will show up over here in the left. They'll also show up in a selector box. So if neither of these are assigned, you can see that I can say, okay, this one's for United States and this one's for Canada. If I only have one shipping location, I don't have to specify which location goes to each because it will just use that one for all of them. All right. So say that I have finished configuring my pledge manager. The last step here is submit pledge manager for review. You can see down here, it will generally tell you what's missing if anything's missing. So right now I can't do this because I need to finish adding all of my tax and tariff information. The rest of this is optional. So that's really the only step I'm missing. Once I did that, I would see a button that says submit. And once my project is approved, I would then see a button for launch. When I hit launch, I would be prompted to end late pledges if I have any going. But as we mentioned before, I've set up my project to basically keep allowing people to pledge, so that's not a concern for me. All right, that's the configuration. Let's go to the next step. Let's say I have finished running my pledge manager. This is a different project that I did. You can see it's at 100%. I have none of my original backers remaining to answer. I collected $7 for shipping, and I did not collect any for add-ons and upgrades. You can see when I launched it, when it closed. I can still initiate lock addresses. So if for some reason I wasn't fulfilling before, folks have been able to edit their addresses up to this point. I could now say, hey, I'm actually sending things out. No more changing addresses. Additionally, I can see my backer report. I can see how many of the different SKUs I need, and I can see my payouts. So I'm going to hit, imagine I hit visit backer report, and I end up on this screen. So this is our new backer report. It is very shiny, and it has some cool new features. So you might notice that there are a lot more filters than there were in the old backer report. I can filter by what different add-ons people got. I can filter by what rewards they got, items and SKUs, the status of their pledge, their location, the amount of their pledge. So one thing to note about the pledge amount is this is only looking at their initial pledge. So if they're a new backer, it will just say 0 because they didn't pledge. They're just a new customer. Additionally, we can look at backer entry point, so campaign, late pledge, pledge manager, pledge date, and whether or not we have taken some of these actions. So let's talk about those actions. If I hit this checkbox and this checkbox, down at the bottom, I have some bulk actions I can take. So I can message these two backers. If I want to just message all my backers, there's a button here at the top. I can update fulfillment status. So I can say, hey, these two backers I have shipped to. And you know what? I have shipped to them, and actually, I need to add tracking numbers for them. This is a new feature as part of this backing report. And I can either download a template. Let's see. Here's what the template looks like. You can see it has the backer's name, email address, and then it has spaces for the backing address and the tracking number. So I would fill that out, and then I would hit upload, and assume I had actually filled it out, it would work, but it's going to tell me that I didn't put anything in. Yeah, successfully added to 0 backers. And those backers will each get a notification that they have had a tracking number uploaded and what it is, so that they can go find out when their thing is coming. Additionally, if I'm doing some digital fulfillment, I can send digital downloads. I can either select a bunch of different backers and say, all right, give each of them a code from this list. I can provide instructions, or I can say shared access so everybody uses the same link. or the same code, and I could put that in here. Similarly to tracking numbers, they would be notified that that had happened, and they would be able to go get their goods. So that's the new backer report. Oh, you can also save views. So for example, if you want to set up a filter, you can save that and say like, this is just for my people who are getting paper books. And now, in addition to my all backers view, which shows everyone, I have this saved view that's just these backers. That might be useful if I want to track like my VIPs or something. We can also duplicate, update, and delete those. And we can, of course, export our backer report. Okay. I think that's everything that I wanted to go over for the demo. Maybe now we can move on to the next step.
Awesome. Thank you, Willow, for taking that on. I know that was a lot, and sometimes we divide it up, but appreciate you. All right. Do we want to share the deck again? Thank you so much. Okay, so thank you again, Willow, for showing what the Pledge Manager currently looks like end to end. Definitely want to reinforce, we spent a long time on this, talked to a lot of creators about what was important, and really tried to build a version of this that we feel really good about, that it meets a lot of the most important creator needs that we heard about. But our work is not done, so let's talk about what's coming next. I wanted to share a little bit about the near-term plans, and then on the next slide, we'll talk about what's sort of after that. So very soon, the following capabilities will be available in the Pledge Manager. I think we might have even seen some of these questions in the chat, so hopefully this answers a few of those. Soon, we will support creators with multiple VAT IDs registered in different countries. We will be releasing a much requested Shopify export for funneling orders from Kickstarter to Shopify. We will have the ability for you to collect Canadian tax or GST, HST from your backers, in addition to the US, the EU, and the UK, which is available today for tax collection. You will have the ability to request a tax report for your project. So we'll be able to share with you a transaction level report for all of the tax that was collected from all of your backers, with a lot of detail in there. And then finally, a really important one that I'm excited about, an end-to-end preview of what the Pledge Manager will look like for your backers. So not just the survey preview, which Willow was kind of showing, but the full, what does it look like when they first land on the page all the way through checkout. So on the horizon, these are some of the most requested features we've heard from creators thus far that we're considering for kind of the next phase of development here, and would love, similarly, just some feedback on which of these are most important to you. So let me just touch on them briefly so we have some context. So some of the improvements we're considering: additional fulfillment partner integrations. So there are some out there that I know folks use, like Easy Ship, Pirate Ship, ShipStation. There's lots out there that we're considering building out integrations with. The ability for you to issue credits to backers or discounts. The ability to add free items to orders. We've heard a lot of creators who we're calling them internally freebies, but if maybe there's like newsletter subscribers or Patreon subscribers, and you have a list of backers that you want to provide with a free item. Packing group segmentation, which as I understand it, is essentially having Kickstarter help to automatically create different segments of backers based on what is being shipped out to them, so that you can kind of handle those in waves and navigate through your orders a bit more efficiently. And then lastly, the ability to add free shipping to orders. So all of these are, again, examples with many more that we've heard of, but commonly requested needs. Feel free to drop in the chat any of these that feel most important to you. We know they're all important to some creators, but if there's some that really stand out to you as most important, would love to take some feedback in the chat. All right, so just to kind of close out here on what's coming next, we are focused on moving fast, listening closely to our creators, and continuing to evolve this tool, the Pledge Manager, in ways that really make your post-campaign experience simpler, smarter, and more powerful. But in order to do that, we want your feedback. So we want you to help us to keep shaping where we go from here. As we've mentioned, we have a number of forums that we're kind of listening out for that feedback, including these webinars, but also in our Discord channel, which I've mentioned in the chat a few times, and that we'll mention at the end here, is open to any creator who wants to join. You can submit feature requests. You can provide context to other people's feature requests. We'll continue to do research and invite many of you to different research sessions and interviews. So we're here, we're listening, and we're really excited to keep the momentum going with you. Um, so, and it looks like we did pop up that poll again. So we've got a lot of responses in there. So take a second, vote on upcoming enhancements that are most important to you. And then again, that will be feedback that I take directly back to the product team. So yes, I saw that we had a big influx of Discord people join today, which is super exciting to see. We will try our best to keep up with all of the questions and the feedback. We're watching every day, but yeah, bear with us. All right, so again, we're listening. We're excited to keep building this with you. And then we're going to move on to the next slide, which is just briefly sort of how we stack up. We know we just covered a lot. Willow deep dived into a lot of the Pledge Manager functionality, surveys, shipping, add-ons, upgrades, tax collection, reward fulfillment, the backer report. So it's a lot to take in. We understand that. At the end, again, we'll be sharing this recording, but we also have a number of great tutorial videos that Shella, who started us off today, recorded. And so don't feel like you have to watch back a full hour session. We've got some bite-sized clips for you there too. So we've covered a lot. It's a lot to take in. Let's put it into context for a second. So we built the Pledge Manager, as we said, to really meet the core post-campaign needs that creators have been asking for. And we want to make sure that it stood up to what's already out there. We know that you have options, and know that you have other options that you've been using for quite some time if you're a repeat creator. But we also know the value of keeping your Pledge Manager right here, where your campaign and your backers and a huge audience of potential backers already are. And that's one of the core benefits that we really see in choosing the Kickstarter Pledge Manager. We've also worked really hard to build something that's strong, competitive, and really creator-centered. And as I mentioned before, we're just getting started. We can't wait to keep evolving this alongside you. So if you have questions, we're happy to take them. But for now, I am going to, with that, pass it back to Shella to kick off our Q&A.
Awesome. Thank you, Hillary. Thank you, Willow. Let's get into some questions. As a reminder, please keep submitting your questions using the Q&A feature. We do have some folks in the chat as well, but the Q&A feature leaves us a really great space to reply directly. People can upvote, see the answers very clearly. We'll just keep answering and keeping things going. So first question I have here is, sorry, I'm pulling up my
Maybe
document.
first question is, where's the Q&A feature? Because I
Oh,
just
that's great.
question.
Try clicking those. There might be an icon that says more at the bottom of your toolbar with 3 dots. So click that. There should be a Q&A feature in that section. If not, it's already in your toolbar. All right, thanks, Hillary. So let's start with how can I avoid the most common unexpected surprises when using the Pledge Manager?
Yeah, I think that one's me. I had we had a number of thoughts here as a team. And I love that people are asking this question and are thinking ahead to like, how can this go smoothly for me? So we have a few pieces of advice. One is get your tax ID numbers ready if you're VAT registered or if you are registered in Canada, for example. So start thinking about your specific tax situation. Decide which products you want to offer that will really be enticing add-ons or upsells for backers in the Pledge Manager. I know like we've had a couple of people say, yeah, I don't need to add add-ons in the Pledge Manager. It is a great, again, continued fundraising area and value add of the Pledge Manager. So we encourage folks to use it. So think about, what rewards and add-ons do you want to offer in the Pledge Manager? Start thinking about how you want to ship your rewards. Are you going to be charging shipping, at the beginning while people initially pledge to your campaign? Or would you rather collect it closer to when you're fulfilling so you can be more sure about shipping costs? Are you going to be doing flat rate or weight-based shipping? So start thinking about that. Think about if you want to allow for new backers to join your campaign through the Pledge Manager. Again, we highly recommend it. A great opportunity for additional funds to be collected. Remember that if you open your campaigns up to backers everywhere in the world, which is something that some creators do, there are implications to that. You'll want to think about what your shipping costs are to different areas of the world. People, don't always necessarily think through that. They just say, yep, whoever wants my reward, I'll ship it to them. And then as much as possible, just try to set expectations with backers during the campaign phase. We know backers do not like surprises unless it's the good kind of surprise. So as much as possible, if you can communicate expectations with backers about what they'll be charged during the campaign versus in the Pledge Manager, are you going to be issuing a tariff surcharge? Will there be additional options in the Pledge Manager? Try to frame those expectations for backers as much as possible.
Thank you, Hillary. Willow, I have a question for you. Do you have
Okay.
any recommendations for calculating shipping?
Yeah, my number one recommendation would be to figure out who you are shipping with, either your carrier or if you're using a fulfillment partner. You're gonna need their input to figure out what's appropriate to charge your backers. And then, like, once you have that information, you can enter those costs into the campaign or Pledge Manager for your associated rewards and items. If you could choose if you want to charge early during the campaign or later during the Pledge Manager. But note that if you charge during the campaign, we don't allow you to increase the shipping cost later in the Pledge Manager. So you should only do that if you're very confident in the shipping costs. Otherwise, you should do the estimates and then charge during the Pledge Manager. That would be our recommendation.
Great. Thank you, Willow. Um, I've been seeing this in the chat and just kind of want to cover this pretty quickly. What is the cost breakdown for using Pledge Manager, or what costs do creators incur?
Yeah, I can cover that. So in general, no upfront costs, like additional costs to use the Pledge Manager. You don't have to pay an upfront fee to unlock that functionality. In fact, as of, was it this week, last week? We now have enabled the Pledge Manager on any campaign that is live or later, so live or successfully funded. So it doesn't matter anymore what your whether you charge shipping at the time of pledge. So no upfront cost to use it. And then our standard 5% platform fee will be applied to any additional funds raised during the Pledge Manager. So your reward upgrades, add-ons, shipping, just like if it were during the campaign, that is not taken out of taxes collected, just to be clear. And then, yeah, the standard 3 to 5% payment processing fee through Stripe applies to any funds, any transaction collected during the Pledge Manager as well. So very similar fee assessment in the Pledge Manager as you might be expecting or used to experiencing in the campaign itself.
Great. I have one more question for you, Hillary. Can we charge different shipping fees for each reward option? And can creators use a mix of weight-based and flat rate? How does that work?
Yeah, it's a great question. So when you configure your Pledge Manager, you will choose between weight-based or flat rate shipping. Whichever you choose, you're kind of going with for the Pledge Manager. At this time, you'll just use that same shipping type. So if you choose weight-based, that will apply to any reward and add-on that you have available in the Pledge Manager. You can set different shipping amounts for each reward or each add-on for each backer destination, if that makes sense. But right now you can't mix the two. So you can't have reward A uses weight-based and reward B uses flat rate. That is something we've heard from a couple of creators. So again, worth maybe throwing that in as a feature request in Discord and getting a little thread going so we can see kind of what the impact is across many creators. Yeah.
Thank you. Willow, this one's for you.
Mhm.
Can I use Pledge Manager for my currently active campaign? And I saw this in the chat as well. We have a couple creators whose campaigns have ended already. They haven't fulfilled them. Can they
Mhm.
use it?
Yeah, as long as you meet the other eligibility requirements. So the main ones there would be that you can't have already sent a backer survey because we don't want to have your backers feel like they're getting spam from Kickstarter. So we're trying to avoid that. And you can't uh, be using a different pledge manager. So if you already have like a backer kit going, you can't go start one on our site as well. And your rewards have to be fully itemized, which basically should be true for any project made in the last like year and a half. But if you're thinking about opening a pledge manager for a project that's older than that, it depends on whether or not you itemized your rewards. And that's because we need those items to do the tax thing.
Great, thank you. Hillary, let's circle back on digital downloads. Can you explain how those work?
Yes.
Or if
So for digital downloads, I think Willow sort of addressed this a little bit in the demo. But a couple of things to know. So we don't host your digital files at this time, at least. So you'd still be using some other, tool wherever you're hosting your digital files or digital rewards. But we do have the ability for you to distribute digital rewards in a couple ways to backers. So in the backer report, if you recall, you can select a group of backers or a segment of backers or even all backers, and you can choose among the actions to send either digital codes or a URL to backers. And those codes, if you're using codes, can be a shared code among all your backers. It can be unique codes that we distribute to backers one by one. But yeah, you'll have a tool for this in the backer report, and there's a spot for you to add some instructions. So once you do that, we will fire off an email to backers letting them know that they've received this digital URL or code, and whatever your instructions were, we'll pass along to them as well. Yeah, and you can upload those codes either individually or in bulk. Keep it nice and simple.
Perfect, thank you. Willow, tax question for you. Can I enter multiple EU VAT IDs?
Not yet. That's a feature that we are currently working on. We're hoping to have that out by the end of the month. Um, Basically, what we're going to do is upgrade that VAT input interface that I showed you earlier so that it will kind of show you each of the different cases that can come up. If Kickstarter's responsible in that case, it will show you what VAT ID we'll be using, and then it will allow you to specify what VAT ID you want to use. For example, if you're like for this country, use this one. For this country, use this one. So you'll be able to say like, oh, use my OSS for these countries and use this specific one for this country. Um, so once that feature's out by the end of the month, yes.
By the end of the month. So exciting. This team is really hustling. It's awesome. All right, we have a tariff question, everyone's favorite topic. How do we handle tariffs when shipping into the US?
Yes, I can take that one. So we last month, the month before, it's hard to tell. It's all a blur right now. Created a tariff surcharge tool. So essentially, when you access the pledge manager on your project, you'll see a banner that says, do you need help with tariffs? Contact us. There's a little form you fill out, and our team will just review it. We just are making sure that people aren't charging like 300% of the reward price, for example, if that's not a current tariff percentage being imposed. And then our team will enable that feature for you if all looks good. And you can add what's called a set tariff surcharge amount for each reward or add-on. Right now, it only is applicable for US backers. Again, we just kind of like sprinted to get a solution out the door to help creators offset some of these costs. And then what will happen is when your backers go through the checkout in the pledge manager, if they have items in their order that you've tied a tariff surcharge to, and they're in the US, they will see a line item that tallies up that surcharge amount with a little info tip that explains what a tariff surcharge is. But we do ask that if you are going to charge backers an amount to handle the costs of tariffs, please, please, please communicate that with them. You will probably, I'm sure you all are experiencing this now, or some of you probably encounter some unhappy backers either way, but as much as possible, if you could kind of like keep the lines of communication clear. we've seen a lot of backers be really understanding in that case. So yep, you'll have a tool that you can opt into when you open the Pledge Manager.
Thanks, Hillary. I also dropped a link to our Help Center article that talks more about the tariff surcharge, so feel free to check that out. I have one more question for the team as we wrap up. Say my main reward is a 6 bundle pack, and then I have a backer who adds 4 items on in the Pledge Manager. So now the order quantity is 10 items. How do I set it up for the backer so they can choose 10 colors for all of those 10 items? And can I add images?
Thank you. I think I answered this in the chat, but to talk through it aloud, yes. So in the survey setup, I think Willow was showing you have what are called variants you can create for your items. So if it's a t-shirt, red, blue, green, purple, what size? So you've got like a number of criteria you can try to collect information from backers about. And if they have 10 of those t-shirts in their order, or 6 of them, they'll be asked that question 6 or 10 times, however many that they have. And yes, you can configure items, images on your items. We highly recommend it so that backers have a sense of what they're getting. Otherwise, you might end up with people, oh, I didn't know it would look like that. Can I get a refund? So the more transparent you can be, please do so.
I will say right now, we don't support having images for the different choices, the item questions. So the way around that would be for like your item image, you could upload a picture that has like, here are the different colors of the thing next to each other. Or you could have like an update for people to refer to while they're filling that out.
Great. Thank you both. We are right at time, so I do want to wrap this up. Thank you all for joining us today. We're really grateful for your time and your thoughtful questions. Please keep an eye on your inbox. We'll send a follow-up email with a link to this recorded session. We'll also send a survey where you can share your thoughts about the Pledge Manager, tell us what features you're looking for, etc. Actually, Becca, if you wouldn't mind, could you drop that link to the survey in the chat here just so people can grab it? Again, if you haven't already, please join our Discord channel to stay connected, submit questions, learn from other creators. You can also check out our tutorial videos on YouTube. You might see a familiar face. We really appreciate you all being here. Looking forward to seeing all your Pledge Managers launch and your awesome projects come to the platform. Thanks again for joining us, being part of our community. We're excited to keep building with you. Have a great day, folks.
Thank you, everyone.